Okay, so we're live on YouTube. We had some folks join us last week on YouTube for our emotional eating class, so that was actually kind of nice. I only wish people could comment, so if they had questions or things that they wanted to throw in there, they could do that, you know. So a few updates on the program. I like to share something every time, but a couple of things. We should have our YouTube channel, our YouTube page up and running probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So I hope to have some forward movement on that because I think that'll be a good way to stay engaged, to put motivational things on there, keep you guys engaged about what's going on in the program, what new things we've got coming. So we did have yoga tonight, which was very relaxing. And interestingly, she was talking about respecting your body and meeting yourself where you are and that sort of thing. And we're going to talk more about that tonight. We do have our next cooking class, which is going to be on June the 4th. And so that starts at 5 o'clock in the evening. We've got flyers in the back. If you go to ngmc.com/bariatrics, that'll take you to the page where you can, I think it's under the word about and then classes is how you can find that. So we've got that cooking class. We have now committed to doing that cooking class every single month, so it will be the first Tuesday of every month. So we'll have that and bariatric yoga scheduled monthly. We are collaborating with the physicians' offices, so Miss Jennifer over at NGPG and Sheena over at the Longstreet Clinic will be working with Giselle, which is our bariatric dietitian here in the hospital program, and collaborating on classes together, which I think will be nice because if you visit them in the office and then you can see them, you know, in cooking class, and they're going to bring different recipe ideas and all with them as well. The recipe cards actually for this next class turned out phenomenal. I'm super excited with the quality on that. And then upstairs in our space, we will be making a recipe wall with those cards coming up. We're still in the midst of our construction upstairs, so I keep telling people pardon our progress as we grow and improve. But they've widened some doorways up there. They've made it a little bit more conducive for our patients as far as the bathrooms across the hall. Now they're compliant for ADA and accessible to everybody. But a couple of things there. Once we get done with the paint and the carpet, which I think will probably be mid-June, then we'll create our recipe wall. So, you know, if you come to the classes, you get the recipe cards with you that night. You'll have a shopping list on one side, directions on how to do the recipe on the back, and then on our recipe wall we'll just have all these recipes all over the place. So you can come and get samples before or after support group, or if you come in for a dietitian visit, that sort of thing, you'll have access. We've also talked about having some as we do the classes as well in the doctor's offices. So if you go for a doctor's visit or you see one of the dietitians there in the office, that way you've got the resources wherever you go. So we're working on that. We will be having our clothing closet. We've already started working a little bit on that, kind of sifting through some of the clothes. We've ordered a couple of the clothing racks that are going to go in there. My hope is just to get them kind of at least hung up so that when they start with the carpet and the painting and stuff, we can move them wherever we need to go and then eventually end up in the clothing closet. And so it'll be really nice. We've got a nice mirror picked out. We'll have a changing curtain in there, so if somebody wants to try on clothes, they'll have a private space to do that. And so if you know anybody who is spring cleaning, let me know. We are looking for some smaller sizes because we want our patients to be able to come as they're losing weight, right? So we've got some of the 2X, 3X, we're good on those, but we're looking really more for now the extra large, maybe medium. Some people might get down to small, I don't know, but I think mediums are probably pretty good. So if you know anybody who's interested, if they're planning on cleaning their closet out or donating anywhere, just ask them to consider donating to us. Some of our staff up on N6G, where our patients go for surgery, have talked about donating clothes over to us. So excited to see some really cool things to go in there. Shoes, belts. That's one thing that we've been talking about is accessorizing, at least for the ladies. But for men too. I mean, belts, hats, whatever, shoes. But the accessories you can use anytime. And so, you know, as you're aggressively losing weight during that first beginning part, you want to just kind of pick and choose what you can have for clothes, but accessorize, because those you can use those anytime. So we'll be excited for that. What else we got going on? We are working diligently with behavioral health. That's something that I feel like in our program we really need more access to. I have an updated list of counselors in the back. I think the first list I gave out at one of the last month's support groups, I had people calling me and saying, I can't get a hold of somebody in this office. So now I've got the updated list. It's got all the locations. I even have somebody in Atlanta if somebody lives down in that area, but it's got the street address and the direct phone number to call for an appointment. So if anybody needs that, that's available to you guys too. But hopefully we will get somebody soon in our program, embedded in our program, so that you guys have access anytime that you need, and also to help supplement some of the support groups that we're doing. So that's that. Any questions? I'm trying to think, what did I miss? Talked about Facebook. All of our cooking classes will be on our live YouTube channel as well, and then of course we'll be able to share that to the Facebook page and things. So lots of good stuff there. So you may have noticed that in our yoga class we just finished, she kept talking about respect your body, take care of your body, accept your body for where you are, right? And I think that's the lovely thing about yoga. But from last week's lesson we talked about emotional eating, and this is from a book called Intuitive Eating. And this talks about having a healthy relationship with food and what to do with that. You know, you were talking about having carb cravings and things. What do you do with that, right? And where's that craving coming from? And from last week's lesson, we would talk about what emotion are you experiencing at that moment. And we find that some people have trouble actually identifying what that emotion is. And so with intuitive eating, it says, what do you need? Like, is there something physical that you need, or is there something, do you need help from somebody? Do you just need a ear that you can talk to? You know, do you need to call a friend? But also talked about what emotion are you feeling in that moment, and can you sit and experience that emotion? Because sometimes people will feed that emotion and they'll stuff their emotions instead of actually experiencing it or dealing with it, which sometimes can be uncomfortable because you might need to talk to somebody. So if somebody's upset you, you might need to say, hey, you hurt my feelings, or hey, I really need some help. And so that was talking about some of the emotional eating. But this one talks about respect for your body, and it talks about mostly respect for your body so that you can feel better about who you are. And it's talking about rejecting the diet mentality, because it's weight loss surgery that we do, right? And so it's not really meant to be a diet, it's more meant to be a lifestyle change of how you choose your food portions and your food choices and that sort of thing, but trying to avoid grazing or snacking in between meals as much as possible, but to make that a lifestyle change. And so we also talk about eating that protein first, and then the vegetable, and then maybe a little bit of that carb or something, so that you're not necessarily depriving yourself, you're still getting it, but you're limiting that portion because you're eating that protein and filling your little pouch with protein as much as you can. One of the interesting things in this particular chapter about respecting your body talks about, it says, studies have shown that the more that you focus on your body, the worse that you feel about yourself, yet the body torture game goes on. And it talks about, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the slimmest of them all? And so part of what this is talking about too is the focus on weight and the focus on being thin, especially to our younger generation too, right? With Instagram, and how many selfies do you have to take to make it the perfect selfie, and how many likes did you get on that on social media, and so much focus that's put on that piece. And then you think about how even supermodels, I've heard interviews before with supermodels, and you think, wow, you know, what would it be like to look like that or have a body like that? But then you listen to them and they talk about how insecure they feel, and you're thinking, how could that possibly be? And then they'll start naming body parts. Well, what about this or about that? And it's not perfect, but does it have to be perfect, you know? And that's one of the things I liked about what the yoga instructor was talking about, is just respecting and loving your body for what it's able to do, for what it's able to provide you. And so, you know, even with supermodels, it's like, you know, teenagers will look at some of those pictures, and adults too sometimes, on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, magazines, and, you know, 9 times out of 10, they're photoshopped. It's not real, you know. So there's this huge focus on it, and it says it's hard to escape the body torture game when the whole country is playing it. And then when you think about the fashion world also has shaped the ideal look for women in various versions of thin, from the 60s with Twiggy, that figure, to now the supermodel Kate Moss. It says even full-bodied fashion turns out to be too thin by medical standards. And what they were talking about here is the Guess jeans and that sort of thing. When they brought Anna Nicole Smith on scene, she was seen as a plus size model, even though when you looked at her weight, like from a medical perspective, she was at the lower end of an ideal body weight, but yet, you know, in her profession, people saw her as a plus size model. She was a gorgeous lady, you know. It's just unrealistic. And then it talks about how body dissatisfaction has become the norm in our country because there's such a focus over that. And so one of the things it talks about body image is about how uncomfortable most people can be when they receive a compliment. So that's one question I have for you guys as a group is, how do you feel when somebody comments on your looks or your weight, or you know, they compliment you and tell you something nice? How does that make you feel?
It took me years just to get myself to say nothing but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And now it feels good, but I still, you know, it's more of a superficial, you know. I still keep thinking about the old way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me more.
I always say is work in progress.
Yeah. How does it make you feel though?
It doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I love myself. So I say when I look in the mirror, I say, you go girl, you need another day. Work it out.
Yeah. So some people, especially if they've had a history of some sort of abuse or something like that, can get very uncomfortable with that. Having compliments or even attention, especially from the opposite sex and things like that, and that's very common in bariatrics. And so that's why I ask, how do you feel? You know?
Well, for years, like I said, before somebody would compliment me, I just never felt worthy of that. So, like I said, it took a long time just to say thank you and stop, thank you.
I think that's very common.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of you for recognizing that.
The big but in
Yeah.
So.
I'm glad that you were able to come to a place of recognizing that, because you do deserve that, you know. But your internal mind was telling you something different.
It's constantly, you know, I've gained 10 pounds, and now I feel like I'm right back where I started from, even though when I look at the pictures, there's nothing close, you know. But just 10 pounds is, you know, a battle.
I'm glad that you have the pictures to go back on. That's why that's so important, taking pre and after. Yeah. Okay. So one of the authors says in here is that patients can fear that if they have accepted their current body size, that it would mean complacency, giving up, or even getting bigger or gaining weight. So sometimes there's a fear of accepting where you are in that moment. It also talks about when you are caught in the I hate my body mindset, it's all too easy to keep delaying good things for yourself and waiting until you have a body that you think is more deserving. And so some of the examples that they gave in here was whether it's buying that nice outfit that you like, or taking a trip with your family to celebrate, or different things like that. Sometimes people can make excuses of, well, when I get to this weight, or when I get to that size, and delaying it instead of allowing yourself to enjoy that and to feel like you deserve it. Have you guys ever done that before?
Yeah, somewhat.
Tell me.
I don't know, I feel awkward about a lot of stuff, because I've never been used to compliments or anything. I've just been put down my whole life. I mean, that's all I've ever been used to, is just somebody dogging me out, putting me down. And when I get a compliment now or anything else, it just makes me feel kind of awkward. I do say thank you and try to make it a positive experience, but I just still feel uneasy inside about everything, you know, right now, because I've come a long ways, but yet I've still got a long ways to go.
So
I'm like working progress, you know.
So the uneasiness that you feel, is it because you don't believe it?
I believe it, but it just feels weird having somebody compliment me instead of throwing off on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 'cause used to, I would just take it and I'd duck my head and I'd go right on.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't say nothing back, you know, wouldn't stand up for myself or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd just take it and go on. And, you know, when somebody does compliment me or try to do something or say something nice about me, it's just kinda odd, you know, it just kinda feels weird. I guess, but I'm just having to get used to it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm getting used to it, it's just taking a while,
Right.
you know. And I mean, and I do appreciate the compliments I get, 'cause I've been asked out 5 different times over the last 2 months, but I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I went through with my ex. I know how she put me down, I know how she talked to me, I know how she done me. And I'm afraid now to even go out on one date.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big man, but I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know how to handle that, and I don't know what to do with it.
You're afraid of being hurt again, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
My heart's very fragile right now.
Yeah.
You know, everything's still fresh in my mind. And even though I've come a long, long way, I'm still afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of getting hurt again. I'm afraid to let too many people get close to me again. You know, and I hope I can change all that. I really hope I can. But right now, I'm just kind of stuck where I'm stuck in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to deal with each day that comes the best I can, you know, and hope for the best. Not that it wouldn't be nice to go out with I had a 20-year-old girl ask me out yesterday.
Ooh,
I'm
damn.
old enough to be her grandma. I told her, I said, I appreciate it. I said,
You will accept that compliment.
That's a really big compliment.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I think she might be on the sugar daddy. She barking up her own tree on that.
Oh my goodness. It talks about how you don't have to like every part of your body to respect your body. And it says, in fact, you don't have to immediately accept where your body is to respect it, but respecting your body means treating it with dignity and meeting its basic needs. And what this particular section is talking about is some people actually treat their pets better than they do their own body. They'll make sure that their pets get nourishment and fed and exercised and loved, unconditional love, but they don't always give the same thing to their own bodies. Tell me.
Well,
He's like, that's me.
that's me down to a T. I mean, I grew up with horses, and horses was our livelihood. I mean, horses was our tractor. Horses was our car at some point when our car was tore up. We would ride a horse, you know, to the grocery store or whatever when I was growing up. And we farmed the horses and mules. And we was taught from a very young age that you take care of them before you do yourself, because that's your worker in the field. I mean, that's like a car, a tractor, anything else. You know, you change oil in your car when you're supposed to. You gotta treat them animals a certain way or they're gonna break down on you early in life. And you've got too much invested in them to break down. You wanna keep them going and you wanna keep them healthy, or they'll do a productive job for you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just raised with that mentality. You know, even when I was doing rodeos and stuff, I mean, when I was young, we was always taught to look after our livestock. You know, if we didn't have enough money to feed ourselves, but we had enough to feed our animals, guess we got to feed our animals did. Because like I say, they was our workers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we treated them animals like kings.
So you nourished them before yourself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. I mean, every day that went by, they got nourished before we did.
So this is going back to the emotional eating piece that we talked about last week, and it says, finally, if you're someone who has used food as a way to cope with your emotions over a lifetime, your present body shape may be representative of the way that you took care of yourself when you knew no other way. However, instead of, hang on, let me catch that right sentence. It says, rather than demeaning the results of this coping mechanism, respect yourself for surviving. And that's one of the things that it talks about is respecting yourself. And, you know, time and time again, I've heard patients come in, especially to the very first seminar, where they say, I can't believe I've let myself get this way. And they're really beating themselves up because of where they are, and they're blaming themselves over the things that they've done in their past. And I usually will say, have you dieted before? Well, yes, of course I have. I've done this and I've done that, and okay, like 50 different diets, right? That's typical. Our patients are like pro-dieters. But to respect yourself, you also have to give credit where credit's due, because if our patients had never dieted before, imagine where they would be then. Because they did try, they did make attempts, and they did lose weight, and they just struggle keeping it off. But you have to give credit because you don't want to disrespect and discredit the effort that you have put in. And for some people, and where they are in that moment, is that's the only coping mechanism that some people have learned. And that's what we're here for, is to help to support healthy coping mechanisms and to help transition, right? So now we're talking about how do you respect your body? It talks about thinking about respecting your body in two ways first. Number one, by making it comfortable and by meeting its basic needs. By making it comfortable and meeting basic needs. And one of the silly kind of comparisons in this book, it talks about, and it asks this crazy question of, when was the last time you bought new underwear? You're going, what's this got to do anything? Well, it was talking about how people put off buying new underwear sometimes, even if wherever size they are, it doesn't fit well. You know, and it's uncomfortable, but they wear it anyway. And they were talking about this one woman who wore her bra until the underwire started jabbing her, and she just refused to buy another one because what if I lose weight and I need to get another one anyway? But she made herself very uncomfortable, and she didn't take care of her body in that moment because she allowed herself to be uncomfortable. So some of the basics it's talking about on ways that you can respect your body is to tell yourself, my body deserves to be fed. I deserve to nourish my body with food that's going to give me energy. My body deserves to be treated with dignity. My body deserves to be dressed comfortably and in a manner which I'm accustomed. And what they meant by this is, if somebody wants to walk around in t-shirts and shorts, and that's how they like to dress, it's what they want to wear, they want to be comfortable, that's fine. But if you have somebody, for example, a businessman who is used to wearing cut business suits in his profession, and that's his way of dressing himself, that's what he's accustomed to, he shouldn't not dress himself in that way if he's gained weight, for example, because he needs to respect himself and to dress himself in the way that he is accustomed to. My body deserves to be touched affectionately and with respect. And so I know that some patients I've dealt with in the past, as they begin to lose weight, a lot of emotional things tend to come up to the surface, and that's why we have the resources and the references for counseling as well, because sometimes as the people begin to lose weight, these emotions start to come up, and they don't know what to do with that. And for some people, I don't know how that felt for you to be hit on so many times in such a short period of time, but but for some people it's uncomfortable, right?
Well, even with my ex-wife, I never have been good at asking nobody out. I mean, never have been. I've always been real bashful and backward when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk to people like we're talking now, but when it comes down to like asking somebody on a date, I'm all phones. I'm like, you don't want to do it.
Yep.
I'm real timid, and my wife, ex-wife, she actually had to ask me out for the first time when we were together. And I was scared to death the whole first day. That was nervous.
And it talks about my body deserves to move comfortably. And so as you guys are looking at different ways to explore exercise, and that's why yoga is just a great start here. We may eventually add more who knows, depends on what our patients really want, but different forms of exercise. But yoga is a good way to gently begin to introduce some exercise. Change your body assessment tool. That's another way that you can respect yourself. It talks about honoring your hunger and respecting your fullness. When it's time to eat and you're hungry, honoring it by nourishing your body, but then allowing yourself to chew slowly, as we teach, and then to feel that fullness and go, okay, I feel it, I'm done, and to be able to walk away from that, but to respect it. And here, and I love this because it talks about stop weighing yourself. Right? Because patients become chronic weighers because they've been dieting, right? And what happens to you if you every single day weigh yourself and you go up half a pound? What does it do to that internal dialogue, right? Well, I've just messed it all up. Throw in the towel, I'm done. As opposed to paying more attention to how are your clothes fitting, how do you feel physically, how are you able to move. When I worked in the bariatric clinic with the surgeons, I loved it when patients did not weigh at home. And I'll never forget this one patient. I don't even remember how many months down she was, but I feel like it had been a few months since she came in. She weighed herself, she started screaming, and I had other people in the office come to go, everything okay, what's going on? And she goes, it's like Oprah. She saw that number on the scale, and she was like so happy and impressed with herself because she hadn't weighed, and so it was just like, yes, one of those moments. So not judging yourself by the number on that scale, and that's why I do recommend taking pictures, because that's a good solid way of being able to compare for yourself. That 10 pounds does not mean that you went back to square one, but visually acknowledging that and showing yourself some compassion and grace.
It's hard. I'll tell you, when I first was losing weight, I was living in North Carolina, and I had a regular exercise routine. I mean, I did yoga 3 or 4 times a week, which I think really reshapes your body, and then I'd go walk, and then a couple times lift weights. And I see myself and I'm like, you might even say you're looking skinny, and I felt really good. But now that I put the 10 pounds back on, I look at it and I'm like, and I haven't exercised like I did, and that's reshaped my whole body again. It's all coming back on the hips and all. Even though it's only 10 pounds, to me it looks like 50, And that's the hard part is don't, criticize yourself.
Right.
But, stop it before it goes any farther, and pull yourself back. But
right.
When you can physically see the change, it's hard to ignore.
Yep. There's another one in here that talks about the body check game. You ever played that? The body check game. So that means comparing your body type. Like you walk in a room and you're comparing yourself to everybody else in the room. My best friend growing up, we'd go to the mall and she'd say, am I the size of that girl or that? And she always had it wrong. She would choose people that were bigger than her, but she would say, am I about her size? But she would play that game a lot,
Before surgery and one of the 50 different diets, whenever I would lose weight, I'd have to ask somebody, point out somebody that I'm roughly that size. And she'd say, well, see that person, and I'm like, really? Because I wouldn't have seen that.
Yeah.
But I have no conscious understanding of what do I really even look like. And why is that so hard? Why does your mind not
I think
see
that's
what
actually
it is?
a good point, because they were using this in a negative way, like to say don't compare yourself. However, putting it in that perspective, I see how that could be helpful, because then it would help you to connect the reality of how others see you, right? Because it's different.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But no, you're no bigger than that person. Really?
Yep. I can see it differently that way. This next one talks about stop body bashing. Every time you focus on your imperfect body parts, it creates more self-conscious and body worry. It's difficult to respect your body when you're constantly chastising yourself for looking the wrong way. How often have you had these kinds of thoughts? I hate my thighs. My arms are too fat and wobbly. My butt is disgusting. I hate my double chin. My stomach is gross.
Okay, you put every one of them every day. Next.
Surrounding yourself with these body thoughts will only make you more unhappy and frustrated. It can also bleed over into how you feel in general about yourself. And that's one of the things that we're going to work on today. Instead of focusing on what you don't like about your body, find parts of your body that you do like or at least tolerate, and start simple. Perhaps you like your eyes or your smile. And then this breaks it down into two separate categories about like statements or respect statements. So a couple of examples of like statements. Instead of saying, my puffy jowls are disgusting, you can replace that with a positive statement to say, I like my hair. Or instead of saying, my thighs are too big, you can replace that make a positive statement and say, I like my muscular calves. Some people may find it difficult to use the like statements, and so instead they recommend using the respect statements. And so instead of saying, I can't stand my cellulite dimpled legs, you can replace it with a respectful statement to say, I'm lucky to have legs that can move my body. And then another one is a negative statement, is my body is so out of shape it's horrible. And instead replace that with a respectful statement of saying, my body got me to school, I've been supporting my family while finishing my degree, so it was hard to work out optimally, but giving yourself some grace. So I think I've got a couple more things to share, and then we're going to move forward in an activity. So this one's talking about respecting your body and actually doing nice things for your body, and that can mean different things for different people. So this may be something as simple as massage or a neck rub, or trying out a sauna for the first time, or getting in a whirlpool, taking a luxurious bath, it says, or using good smelling lotions. I don't know how the guys feel about that, but girls love different smelling oceans, but treating yourself. And then it also talks about taking a bath using bath oils or salts, trying it with candlelit music, classical music, whatever it takes to get yourself relaxed, but to treat yourself. So what kind of nice things can you do for your body? Help me, guys. I'm not a guy, so I don't know what a guy would do, but what about shave lotions? Or guys can get massages. It feels good. Huh. Yes.
I'm not too bad for the candles. When my back's flared up, I do use Epsom salts in the bath.
Yes.
You know, just soak in a hot tub for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of that lavender's nice. Well, I used to have some kind of lavender stuff, and it was Epsom salt, lavender
They have
stuff.
Epsom salt now that's scented lavender. Yep.
And I would use it, and all that.
You can spray it on your light bulb, turn the light on, you right in the head, that smell all into the room.
And I've got some lavender scented lotion at home. My daughter gave me for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
So she said it was like a relaxing type
Okay.
of lotion, you know.
What else? Give me a couple more things for the guys. What else could you do?
I did get a massage one time. My daughter got me one of them.
What about those chairs at the mall? You can put money in and you sit there and get a back massage.
Yeah. I went and got one of them one time before. My daughter got me one for Christmas one year. Somebody she knows was a massage therapist.
Yep.
And I got one of those, and it was good. I wasn't sleeping or anything. Because I'm used to giving massages, not getting them on all the horses.
Yeah. Yep. So it says your body deserves to be pampered and touched.
Once a month.
Mm-hmm. Hand massages are good. We actually had, and I can't remember who it was, somebody here in the hospital taught us how to give hand massages, but it's really simple, but you just put on a little bit of lotion, and it doesn't have to have a scent to it or anything else, but you really can start at the top or this way, and you can start doing a hand massage, and then you can come down this way, almost like you're milking your fingers. But a hand massage, that's something that you can do anywhere. So the last thing before we get started on our little project is talking about health at every size. It's a concept embraced by many different disciplines. It focuses on health rather than how much a person weighs. And so some of the things that they encourage are accepting and respecting the natural diversity of body sizes and shapes. We're all different. And then it talks about eating in a flexible manner that values the pleasure and honors the internal cue of hunger and satiety, and finding joy in moving one's body and becoming more physically vital, even if it's the small things. I had a patient one time who came in, and we went around the group and we were talking about what really are you very pleased with that now you're physically able to do that you weren't able to do. And his answer was to tie his shoes. He couldn't physically reach over and tie his shoes, and he just felt very embarrassed but frustrated because his new wife, they had just gotten married, was having to do his shoes for him. And so for him, just to be able to physically do something simple that most people take for granted was a big deal. And so to acknowledge those times. So one little project I wanted us to work on today, and this is more of a visual thing, so forgive the crayons, okay? This is not a kid project, but for us to just do a visual kind of demonstration. But as I pass these out, put your name in this circle, okay? Because this will be you. And y'all can take these home. You can leave them, whatever you want to do. Hang on your refrigerator if you want, or you can just leave it here and I'll get rid of it. But put your name in the circle. And then as you guys do that, I want you guys to take a couple of minutes. And this is what this looks like for you guys on YouTube. It's just a flower with some roots. And we've got some little raindrops trying to nourish it. But after you put your name in the center, I want you guys to spend just a couple minutes at the roots. And I want you to think through some of the things, like Danny was mentioning, this is what he grew up knowing. You know, he grew up hearing negative things, so when somebody tells him positive, he's like, come again? But write down some things maybe that's in your past, in your history, that leads to some of that internal self-talk that you tell yourself sometimes. And this could be some self-talk that you commonly tell yourself. It could be things that have come from negative relationships that you've had in your past, negative comments that you've had. And unfortunately, some of those come from family members and friends sometimes in our past, or maybe even negative habits that you've had in the past or that you still struggle with. But I want you to write down all those things down by the roots of your flower, because that's in your past. It's underneath. So these things could be things that when somebody compliments you, what you change it into in your mind, what you really hear. It could be things about why you think you don't deserve to be happy or to be taken care of or to be healthy. Or it could be negative habits that you've gotten into that maybe you know that you need to work on or change. Tell me when you guys are done, and I'll come around with some crayons. done all those negative things, I want you to take your crayon and I want you to cover it all up from the roots down, because what we're going to do is we're going to cover here, down below, and you're going to bury those things, because that's in your past. Those are the negative things from the past, right? Some people may want to color really hard and get their frustration out, but we're going to get rid of that because we're going to replace it. Okay. So when you guys get done with that piece, then I want you to turn your attention to the stem of that flower and the leaves of that flower, and I want you to think about family, friends, and co-workers that help to support you. Who gives you that positive feedback? Who helps to encourage you when others may not? For some people it may be family, but for others their family was not supportive of their weight loss surgery. And it may end up being co-workers. Yeah, you can just write it right along like the leaves or the stem, but these are the people that help to support you and encourage you. Sure, if you want, yeah, that's all you. That's all you. Could be friends and support group. But who helps you? Who do you feel like is your biggest supporters in your weight loss journey or in life in general?
You know, what's hard is, I mean, you know, I have friends and family that sometimes everything's black and white. You just do it.
Yep.
They don't see that gray. They don't understand it when you try to explain it to them, and that's frustrating.
Yep.
For you it might be simple, but for me, I can't turn a switch.
That's right. Yeah, and everybody has a different past. Everybody has a different way of dealing with things and coping with things. And in a different group, we were talking about that. One patient said, well, it just, you just flip the switch. You eat to live instead of live to eat. But his family member that was about to go through surgery, that's not how she dealt with things. She was an emotional eater, and she was like, I can't, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I have a friend who'll, I mean, she's very healthy, and she'll say things, and I'm like, I've always been the type of person that if you tell me what to do, I'm going to do exactly the opposite. Don't tell me what to do. So, yeah, it's.
I have a friend like that, but until she started walking in my shoes. So she started saying, well, I'm going to do this diet with you. So, and she's doing what I have to do. So, girl, that's hard.
What made you think it was easy?
Yeah. You just eat that. No, I can't have it.
Yep.
I can't have it.
Yep.
And you start cutting out the bread and the sugar and all the white stuff, then you tell.
Yep.
Then when you have to go, you can't buy your food, you have to go and buy fresh food and cook it every day.
Or the full liquid diet, right?
Well, no, I'm not even the liquid diet, because I'm on a liquid, we want to reduce liquid. So I told her, so you try doing that, try to figure out how to eat your food and you doesn't have so much fluid in it.
Yep. Yep.
She said, oh God, she said, girl, you got that. I can't do it no more.
That changed it, right?
My bread.
So the little raindrops that are coming down are trying to nourish this little flower. And so what I want y'all to think about is, what are things that you can do to respect your body, to care for your body, to provide for your body, because these little raindrops are going to come down to the roots, right? And it's going to then be sucked up through the roots and nourish that flower. So what can you do for yourself that's going to take away this negative self-talk or negative things and then produce positivity? So this could be forms of exercise, okay, to take care of your body. It could be yoga that you just did, right? It could be healthy food choices. It could be some changes maybe that you've made around that. It could be a different coping mechanism. If you're craving carbs, it could be something that you're planning on putting in place to help with that. Stress reduction. It could be non-food rewards. So it could be some of those things that we talked about, whether it's not putting off a trip and taking that trip with your family or friends so that you can enjoy that experience and celebrating and being where you are with that instead of putting it off until you're a certain size. It could be nurturing a relationship that you have, that you feel like you need to invest more time in, that would help with respecting yourself and allowing yourself to know that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be cared for. You deserve to be touched and loved. So talk to me about some of the things that you nourished your little flower with. What did you do? What did you do to respect your body? Okay. Love it.
Take time for myself.
I like that. That's hard to do sometimes, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Sometimes you got to carve time out. You ever heard if you don't put it on the calendar, it won't happen? But that's good, and everybody needs time for themselves in different ways. For some people, they're social butterflies and they need to be around people. And for other people, they need solitude. They need time by themselves to think and process things and just be quiet for a while. What else? Very good. I love that. Yep.
Thankful for every day.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a whole lot worse.
True. Sounds like people who practice the gratitude journaling and things like that, where every day they write down so many things, even if it's simple things. Yeah.
I tried that.
No? This next one's going to be a challenge for you then. So the last one is to fill in the petals. And some of the things I put on here, it can be anything you want it to be, but it cannot be a negative comment. It has to be something positive. So start with something positive about yourself. You know, I like what? What do you like about yourself the most physically? It can be a body part, it can be your smile, it can be your eyes, your hair. My brother-in-law loves his hair. He's the most girly man when it comes to hair. He's got the hair dryer and the hairspray and everything else. I know that's what he would put, but what is yours? What What do you like best about your physical appearance? I really like my what, or I have a great whatever. After you put down about your appearance, then you can put a positive comment about your body. So this one's not related to appearance, but what can you say that's positive about your body? And that one can be harder. It can be what does your body allow you to do? It could be something that you enjoy doing and that you're glad that you're able to do that, or it could be something that after weight loss surgery that now you're able to do that before you weren't, like my friend that was able to tie his shoes. And then I want you to write down something that you really like to wear, that you like how it makes you feel, you like how it looks on you. This could be jewelry, it could be a shirt, it could be a hat, but something that makes you feel good when you wear it. And then I want you to think of something positive about yourself, about who you are, about your character. Something positive, and it can be something like, I am what? I am compassionate, I am loving, I am forgiving, I am happy, I am a pleasure to be around. What might that be? And then on this last petal, what gift do you give to those around you, your family, your friends? I am a gift to them because you have a great sense of humor, because you give good advice, because you're a good support system for others. What is it that you do that's great, that you do to help others? So to tie this all together, respecting your body, respecting yourself, loving yourself, being compassionate with yourself, I want you guys to begin to think through, to be grateful for those friends, families, co-workers, support people that are there for you. And I want you guys to go forward trying to really focus on the things that nourish you and respect you, whether it is making good food choices or somehow carving out that time for yourself that you so need. But to focus on caring for yourself, because it's hard to care for others if you haven't truly taken care of yourself. And then if you hear any of these negative things that we've covered up come creeping back into your mind, I want you to start thinking about the positive things that you've written on this flower, the positive things that you are, the positive characteristics that you have, the gift that you are to others. But start replacing those positive comments with the negative comments, because you do deserve respect, and you deserve to be cared for and nourished and loved and touched. Thank you guys for coming.